Hi, my name is Lisa's Landscape and Lisa. Pretty good, right, son? Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm the Lisa of Lisa's Landscape and Design. I am doing this video because a friend of mine said, as much as they enjoy the videos that I do on YouTube, one very important component is missing, and that would be me. I think that it's probably important that you make a connection with the voice so that you can kind of relate to who it is that the person is that you're listening to. I don't know, I'm kind of a, it's how I do my business, I guess. You can get several bids from a landscape designer. Ultimately, however, I think it comes down to personality. You either feel that you have a connection with this person and that they're going to respect your wishes, your money, your lifestyle, your needs, or they don't. I mean, the lower bid doesn't necessarily mean that that person suits your personality and your lifestyle or respects it. So I think with the videos it's probably the same thing. And the same thing with my blog. I'm going to start way back and kind of explain a little bit about myself and what motivated me to get into this business in the first place, and what further motivated me to start doing blogs and video. Way back in the old days, I was a gardener as a child. My grandparents on both sides, maternal and paternal, were amazing gardeners. My great-grandmother, unfortunately, I never got to see her garden, but I hear tell that it was pretty spectacular. And I just remember the feeling that it gave me, the level of, I don't know, there's something really magical, and I'll probably use this word a lot, about being out with nature and about being in the garden space. The smell, the taste, the sound, there's so much tactile of a relationship that you have with nature that I think so many of us have gotten away from. And to get back to my story, I was originally from Chicago, moved here to Austin, Texas in my late teens, and to be real honest, I was pissed off. I didn't want to be here. This is culturally, emotionally, geographically traumatized. And so spent a few years trying to find myself. The dirt here is orange, a lot of rocks. Up north it's black and fertile, and you throw stuff out and it just grows. And so when I moved in my first apartment, I built myself a little patio garden, and I'd go out there and sit and smell the roses, literally and figuratively, and watch the butterflies and bumblebees or honeybees come up. And that turned into like the crazy cat lady, but with plants. So I had planters hanging all over every window and over the edge of the balcony. And I realized that there are actually a lot of really spectacular plants that do beautifully in Central Texas. You just have to find them. So when I started moving into my homes, I did just that. I made it my personal mission to find every single plant that did spectacularly in Central Texas. And some were real failures. Geographically here, we're challenged because what does well in Westlake doesn't necessarily do well in Georgetown. So in your area, and I've been in this North Austin area for the last, 25 years, you got to kind of figure out what really works. And then, of course, there's conditions and lighting and all those sorts of things. So I made that my hobby. And in that, and during that transition, I got married and had 2 babies, and my second son was pretty profoundly autistic when he was born, and that lasted for several years of really trying to kind of get through to him. And I have to tell you personally, it's very draining as a parent to watch that, to be part of it, to hear what you can and can't do. And so I would go out to my garden for my therapy. That was my place to escape. And so I realized, wow, that would be really spectacular if do people realize that this is how it makes you feel? And so when my son was old enough to go on to school and be more self-sufficient, I didn't know what the heck to do with myself. And my husband said, you know what, why don't you do this as a career? And I thought, how ridiculous. So, I'm just going to go out there and say, hey, look at me, I'm a gardener, why don't you hire me? As it turned out, that's exactly what happened. I went out, I was passionate, I had studied art all through school. I had been a gardener all my life. Beyond that, I ended up going back to school, got my degree, or my certification rather, in landscape design, and became a master gardener. It's not the same as practical application. The best education you are ever going to get is in your own backyard. So I ended up getting hired by a very successful individual who could have hired anyone she wanted, but she chose me. And that I was her personal gardener and I took care of her estate, and that led into just this exponential growth every year. And then I started looking around and I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling fulfilled because I'm still seeing the same madness. I'm seeing overwatering, I'm seeing pollution in the way of chemical abuse and use. Frankly, it's just not necessary. And all these, to me, counterproductive gardening habits that were killing our planet. And I started getting mad again. And I thought, this isn't going to work for me. I can't go out there and, you know how many people I would have to, and I thought, maybe I could educate people. How would I educate people? And my husband, in my anger moment, said, why don't you start blogging? And I thought, wow, you know what, I would do like to write, and I've got all this stuff in my head, and I went 100 miles an hour, and they kept coming out. And I decided really in that moment that my motto is going to be, I'm going to save the planet 1 yard at a time. Well, I did that for a number of years, and I was very pleased with my success, but I realized there's a lot of yards. I have my work cut out. So I started to focus more on my landscape consultations. And a landscape consultation is not what you might think in the way of a typical landscape architect consultation. It's actually more of an educational education. I am not an architect. There's a big distinction. One, mainly that I'm just a lot cheaper. I do a concept design. I don't give you an engineer draft and blueprint. I did learn CAD. I hated it. I like to draw. I like the feel of it. I like the way the layout looks. I like the colors. I draw with colored pencil. I feel like it gives a better impact to the client. So I started doing the educational consultations, and once again I realized there's a lot of yards in the world. I can't save this whole planet 1 yard at a time if I don't have help. So my initiative then was to go to video and educate people, not just with my blog, and I have to say collectively, just over the last few years, I've reached 40,000 people plus in countries all over the entire world. It has been an absolute blast and an honor that you even take the time to stop and listen to me. I'm nobody by comparison to who you are or anyone else. We all have things that we're particularly good at. This is just what I'm really passionate about. So I felt like if I could train you and teach you, and then you could teach your family, your parents, your coworkers, your neighbors, and really most importantly our children, that ultimately we could take over the world and honestly change the world 1 yard at a time. So that's enough about me. And with that, go get your garden on.